Walk into the throne room of the Red Keep today, and you'll find King Robert Baratheon sweating through his silks. He sits heavy on the Iron Throne, his jaw buried in a coarse black beard and his belly sagging, drinking beer from a polished horn while roaring at his squires that his armor was made too small. 15 years ago, the realm knew a different man, the demon of the Trident. Robert stood 6.5 feet tall, muscled like a maiden's fantasy. He carried a spiked iron warhammer so heavy that his closest friend, Ned Stark, could scarcely lift it, and the smell of blood and leather followed him like perfume. That warrior was forged in a singular, blinding hatred. The Mad King Aerys had demanded Robert's head, and Prince Rhaegar had disappeared with the woman Robert loved. Robert's uprising was a desperate scramble for survival. Fleeing an execution order from a king who had murdered the fathers of his peers, Robert led a faction of isolated houses, Starks, Arryns, and Baratheons, who were geographically separated and vastly outnumbered by Targaryen loyalists. This existential threat forced an unprecedented military union. These disparate powers locked banners, forming a unified front that pushed aggressively toward the capital to stop the king before he could systematically pick them apart. A lord fighting for a political seat can be negotiated with, but a man fighting because the alternative is his own head on a spike has nothing left to lose. The war reached its narrowest point in the town of Stony Sept. Robert was wounded, alone, and bleeding in the dark cellars of the town, completely separated from his army. The Mad King's hand, Jon Connington, knew that Robert's capture would decapitate the rebellion. He sealed the town and sent his knights house to house, smashing in doors and peering into every cellar and sewer to find the wounded lord. The local small folk risked their lives to keep him hidden. They moved him from one secret bolt hole to the next, keeping him one step ahead of the king's men while the search dragged on. The siege broke when the allied rebel forces under Ned Stark finally arrived. The quiet, house-to-house search exploded into a general battle as the town's bells began to ring in a frantic, chaotic chorus. Robert didn't wait for rescue. Bursting from his hiding spot with a blade in hand, he rallied his scattered supporters in the streets, turning a desperate defense into a frenzied counterattack. He fought his way to the steps of the town's sept, where he clashed directly with the hand of the king. Robert nearly killed Jon Connington in single combat, forcing the royalist commander to flee the field. After Stony Sept, Robert was no longer just a highborn rebel. He was a legend who inspired the kind of loyalty that saw commoners choose torture over revealing his location. That momentum led the armies to the rushing waters of the Trident for the war's definitive showdown. Amidst the clash of thousands, Robert Baratheon and Prince Rhaegar Targaryen met in the middle of the river. For a moment, the wider battle around them seemed to stop as the two men dueled on horseback in the churning water. Robert ended the Targaryen cause with a single blow. His hammer crushed Rhaegar's chest, sending river water and the red rubies from the prince's armor splashing into the current. While Robert lay wounded at the Trident, Tywin Lannister reached the capital first. He breached the gates under a false pretense of loyalty and sacked King's Landing, turning the city into a slaughterhouse. This banner represents a 300-year-old institution, many believed divine and unshakable. But when word reached the capital that Rhaegar had fallen, the Mad King's court collapsed into panic, allowing the Lannisters to walk through the gates and dismantle the dynasty from the inside. To secure the victory, Tywin presented Robert with the bodies of Rhaegar's infant children. Robert looked at the corpses and callously declared them nothing more than dragon spawn, a cold justification that horrified his closest allies. To end the Targaryen threat forever, the hero of the Trident chose to accept the permanent stain of those murders as the price of his new crown. Robert Baratheon was crowned, the ultimate prize for a year of blood and bone. But the kinetic energy that kept him alive in the cellars of Stony Sept had no place in a palace. The war was over, and Robert found himself sitting on a throne, expected to rule a realm he had only ever known how to conquer. He spent the next 15 years hiding from his responsibilities. He ate, drank, and whored his way into a massive girth, trying to drown a deep depression and a total lack of purpose in the hollow excesses of the court. His queen and his brothers eventually realized the core tragedy of the rebellion. The warrior they loved died on the battlefield, and a stranger took his place. Robert was psychologically and emotionally built for the chaos of the campaign, but he was entirely unsuited for the stillness of peace. The greatest military triumph in the history of the Seven Kingdoms became a personal tragedy, destroying the victor by giving him exactly what he fought for.